With the Minnesota Vikings firing GM Rick Spielman and head coach Mike Zimmer, bringing in new general manager Kwesi adofo-mensah and Kevin O'Connell, it is a new day, new dawn for the Vikings. But what about the jabronis that are on the roster that were drafted by Spielman, were coached by Zimmer? What happens with them? Well, with anything, it should be an open competition. Best player gets the spot, and there's no ties, there's no politics, there's nothing there. And we have a list of 8 players who deserve a clean slate with the new regime, as well as a second chance with the fans. Because we as fans, we are much more into microwaves and not crock pots, even though the product from a crock pot is very nice. It can be. Or Instapot, whatever the kids are doing nowadays. But we want immediate gratification right now. Hey, that 5th round pick didn't make All-Pro? Bust. Bum. Like, how many Vikings fans wrote off KJ Osborne after his 2020 rookie season, where he played 0, goose egg, D'Angelo Russell offensive snaps, and was benched thrice on special teams? But then he came back in year 2, had a very nice season, and looks to be a very solid wide receiver 2-3 going forward, right? But there's a bunch of guys that did not get the time of day last year, who I think do deserve a shot and a fresh start with the new coaching staff, with the new GM, as well as with the Vikings fans. So let's go over all 8 of them. At the top, yes, a 2021 third round pick, Kellerman. Basically a second round pick. He's third or fourth pick in the third round, whatever. But the pride of Texas A&M, he's got an arm for days. He's got great mobility. He's been a great leader. A little bit quiet, a little bit understated during his time at College Station. But Jimbo Fisher raved about him. I liked him in the draft. I think that the Vikings got a steal where they got him. But Vikings fans sort of giving up on him. He's like, oh, Mike Zimmer, obviously, he knows a thing or two. It's like, he doesn't need to see Kellerman in a game because he sees him in practice every day. Bop, 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 bop. And there is a segment of the fan base where, oh, he must be bad because he went 3 and out in his only drive against Green Bay. The week where he didn't get Friday practice and was literally coming in cold off the bench. It's like, oh yeah, he must be a bust. Well, you can't fix stupid. I'm sorry. I feel bad for you. And I do not know if Kellerman is going to be a good NFL quarterback, but neither do you. Like, no one knows at this point. But I would say, hey, give him a shot with a great offensive mind like Kevin O'Connell, and maybe we go from there. And if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. And if he's not Kwesi's cup of tea, maybe the Vikings draft a quarterback in the first or second round of this upcoming year to be the future franchise quarterback, whatever at that point. But all these young guys that we're going to go over, like, how much of it do you think, from what we know now, from the eternal struggle between Zimmer and Spielman, and then them not talking, how much of it was Zimmer not developing young players, not playing young players because he thought that the veterans gave him the best chance to win games, try to save his bacon, as opposed to developing for the future? Because guess what? If he didn't win games, there was no future to develop. And I don't know, consciously, subconsciously, would Zimmer be petty enough to not play and publicly talk bad about some of Spielman's prize draft picks? I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I'm also not saying it. It's great, man. But like I said, Kellerman, is he quarterback of the future? Again, I don't know. Could he be a solid backup in this league? Yes. I think that he does have the tools, maybe develop into something more. I like his chances much better with Kevin O'Connell than I do with the boy blunder, Clint Kubiak, and Mike Zimmer. Next up, 8 Vikings who need a second chance. B.C. Johnson. Now, people forget about B.C. Johnson. And he was the guy who came in, had a phenomenal rookie season when Thielen was injured. And then last year towards ACL. Last year towards ACL, 2020, he actually started 2 games ahead of Justin friggin' Jefferson, and now heads into the final year of his rookie deal. He's massively overachieved for a 7th round pick, but can he work his way back in as a special teamer, as a potential wide receiver 3-4? I think he can. Like he's not going to be an alpha dog wide receiver 1. That's just not him. But what he can do is intermediate routes. He's a very clean route runner, and he's got great hands. He can be a solid security blanket as a guy who gets, 25 catches for the season? I mean, absolutely. As a tertiary receiving option, I think that he could do that. Sticking with the wide receivers, Smith-Marsette. Now, I know that ISM did get a little bit of snaps towards the end of the season, including a couple touchdowns, which is great to see. But I feel like the Vikings didn't tap into his potential, and I feel like Kevin O'Connell certainly can. Where the Vikings and their passing game, Kirk Cousins, respect, has one of the best deep balls in the league. But the problem is, can he get protection to deliver it? And Smith-Marsette, he's got speed for days. He was misused at Iowa. He was misused last year as a rookie. So I say Kevin O'Connell is going to look at him as like, hey, we got great vertical speed. Him and Dan Chisena, let's just get them on the field for a handful of snaps, have them run nines and take the top off the defense, make life easier. Because all these weapons on the Vikings offense, and they still underachieved last year. Even though the offense was decent, it was decent, but think of how much better it can be. You got Jefferson as the best wide receiver in the game. You got Thielen still contributing, especially in the red zone. You got KJ coming into his own. Rookie TBD. Maybe the Vikings go, Drake London would be gross, man. Treylon Burks one time. And then you got Amir Smith-Marsette running nines. And then BC as wide receiver 17 on the team, still bringing in catches. I love it, man. Next up, number 4, Viking who needs a second chance, Wyatt Davis. That's right. Area 51. And I understand. It's like, well, there must be something wrong with Wyatt Davis because the Vikings have offensive line problems. You look at what happened with Oli Udoh, and Wyatt Davis was not even active for most of the games. Like, oh, there obviously must be something wrong with Wyatt Davis. Or do we take everything that Zimmer ever said and did with young players with a grain of salt, especially with the offensive line? Maybe. Because I mean, Wyatt Davis, the way that he played, especially the last 2 years at Ohio State, where he was an All-American, and the way that he played in the national title game, even though he had a knee injury and before he left, and then Christian Barmore took over and just completely dominated that game for Alabama, I think that Wyatt Davis can be a stud in this league. I still do. I'm holding out hope, man. And you look around the league, like the Chiefs with Creed Humphrey, a second-round pick. Trey Smith, the pride of Tennessee, who fell because of concerns of blood clots in his lungs, even though it didn't affect him over the last 2 years. He falls to the 6th round and becomes an immediate starter for the Chiefs and phenomenal out there. But, Wyatt Davis, the 3rd-round pick. He can't get on the field because he's obviously terrible. No. Bring in a guy like Bill Callahan. Bring in Kevin O'Connell, who's going to put in the fantastic offense. Give Wyatt Davis a shot, man. I'll put it on the table right now. I think that Wyatt Davis could and should be in the mix to start on the offensive line for the Vikings. Could that be a right guard? Could that be at center? TBD. But I'm not giving up on Wyatt Davis yet, no matter what. And watch, Wyatt Davis becomes a Pro Bowler, All-Pro, all up in that stratosphere. He becomes the next Wyatt Teller, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe it was him. Who knows? Next up, into the Final Four, Patrick Jones II. So speaking of 3rd-round picks who never really got the time of day, now Patrick Jones II did get just a little bit of run towards the end, but the Vikings, even though they're still getting after the passer, even with a patchwork pass rush, and yeah, Everson looked good before he left. Daniil looked good before he got hurt. And then DJ Warner stepped up nicely in year 2. Kenny Willekes is looking good in year 2 as well. So I understand where the snap's going to come from. But Patrick Jones II, man, all the hype coming in is like, oh, he looks like a young Everson. Oh, he's rushing with power. Oh, he's getting things done. The pride of Pitt. I want to see more of it. Him, Janaris Robinson, a bunch of rookies TBD being brought in, Kenny Willekes in year 3, bring that on. They all deserve a clean slate and a second chance with the new regime. Last 3, linebacker Chad Surratt. I mean, people forget, Chad Surratt was the 2nd player drafted by the Vikings last year after Darisaw, and he just never saw the field. I understand he's an older rookie, converted quarterback, and only spent 2 years on that side of the ball, but I think that the kid is a great athlete. I think that he's got a good knowledge of the game. I think that he plays with a lot of heart. He did some good things on special teams, and I understand why Zimmer wanted to go with, hey, Troy Dye, who I trust a little bit more, even though he was a rookie last year. Hey, Nick Candlelight Vigil. Hey, Blake Lynch, even though Blake Lynch is looking pretty damn good. Hey, Anthony Barr. Hey, Eric Kendricks, obviously. But, I mean, Chaz deserves to have some time of day. And I think that an open competition in camp where he's really getting things together, year 4 at linebacker, I think that he could make an impact for the Vikings. Maybe not in base defense because you got Kendricks, you got Blake Lynch. Maybe you draft a linebacker, maybe a Devin Lloyd or Nakobe Dean or something like that. But special teams, yeah, for sure. Next up, Harrison Hand. So formerly 38 special, now 20 special. Good things happen whenever Harrison Hand is on the field, except they just never let him on the damn field. Even with the Vikings' deficiencies at cornerback for the last 2 years, how come Harrison Hand is not getting out there? And I thought that Zim was supposed to be this DB whisperer, but maybe not so much. Hell, I'm just going to throw Cameron Dantzler out there too, because we all know he was the last one. So Cameron Tiny Dantzler showed great flashes, was arguably the best rookie cornerback in 2020. And then this year, I don't know whether it's ego, whether it's him not handling benching well, whether it's him giving up some big plays. He just didn't have that same spark that we saw at the back end of 2020 after DK and Russ did horrible things to him in week 6? Week 5, one of the two. Anyways, so yeah, Dantzler and Hand, I think with a new defensive scheme, especially if the Vikings do bring in Ed Donatel or Aubrey Pleasant or Desai, where they all have defensive backgrounds, where I think that this would be huge for guys like Harrison Hand, guys like Cameron Dantzler, guys like Josh Metellus, obviously guys like Cameron Bynum as well. So even though all 8 of these guys have been much maligned, especially in the eyes of Vikings fans, the new regime needs to come in and say, hey, these guys have talent. I mean, these guys, Kellen Mond, 3rd-round pick. Patrick Jones, 3rd-round pick. Chaz Surratt, 3rd-round pick. Wyatt Davis, 3rd-round pick. Amir Smith-Marsette, 5th round. Harrison Ant, 5th. Cameron Dantzler, 3rd. All these guys have a ton of talent. And Kwesi, I mean, him with the Browns, him with the Niners, I'm sure that he came across these guys in the draft process. He probably has a dossier on them, so he has a good idea about them. And Kevin O'Connell, especially him being involved in the draft process with the Rams, he probably has a good idea of what they like in Kellen Mond. He probably has a good idea of what they like in Wyatt Davis and Amir Smith-Marsette and company. So it's going to be good. Again, don't give up on these guys. Just because they didn't get the time of day with the previous regime, we know the whole tension between Zimmer and Spielman. We know Zim never plays or develops rookies, which is kind of true. It is, but again, what can you do? But that's it. That is a list of 8 Vikings who deserve a clean slate and a second chance with fans. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.